You're listening to Beyond Insights, your go-to podcast for all things accounting, business, and technology.
From cybersecurity and AI innovations to sustainability and work-life balance, we've got you covered.
We host insightful guests from different backgrounds, industries, and locations all around the world.
From this diversity of thought, we aim to find solutions to some of our most pressing business problems.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's dive right in and go beyond insights.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our SIFT podcast today. Today, I'm joined by Andrew Seguin, who is the founder of Seguin Financial. Seguin Financial is a bookkeeping firm that's based in Cornwall, Ontario. Their approach is dedicated to giving clients the strong service and expert business advice that they require while developing streamlined workflows to save time and better clients' businesses. So in December 2018, Andrew decided it was time to take an entrepreneurial leap and start Seguin Financial, moving from working at a community health center and opening his own business. And he's also one of the very first people that I interviewed when I started working at SIFT back in 2021. So it's really cool to be meeting up with you again, Andrew. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, likewise. It's great how it all comes back full circle years later, right? I love it. So.
Really cool. And actually, before we started the podcast, Andrew was saying his girlfriend's wearing the shirt that we sent all those years ago, our first example of six.
I know. I think I worked out in it a few times, and it goes into a drawer after a certain point. And I think as spouses do, they grab it and say, "This is mine now." And I said, "Okay, it's yours." And then she's been wearing it here and there. So it's so funny wearing it this morning. I was like, look at that. What a small world. What a coincidence.
So great to know that the shirt has an afterlife. It's still going.
Still going. Yeah.
Awesome. So maybe we can dive into our topic for today. We're looking at going behind the bookkeeper. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about Seguin Financial, how you started, what you're all about, and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So we're a team of 7 staff members, and we're all physically in the Ontario, Canada region. When I was working at a nonprofit for about 6 years, I really loved what I was doing, which I think so it was finance. Yeah, I was doing finance related tasks, accounts payable, payroll, all that kind of fun stuff. But my favorite part of the job, I think, was really working in a team of 30, but it was really helping other people out. I really enjoyed that aspect of doing different things, not just one specific task, but helping out with different projects and different departments, and just making people happy with my skill set. Because I was really in that office, I was the tech guy, right? I was able to help troubleshoot IT issues and use Excel, and to a certain degree that people couldn't use. And so for me, I really wanted to do a bit more in regards to my skill set. And I thought, I had 1 or 2 bookkeeping clients on the side, very, very, very small. But instead of just dipping my toe into it, I really made the full blown decision of just quitting my full-time job and going all in this, running a bookkeeping business, which was scary. I had some initial regrets in the first few months, because it's you left this cushy nonprofit job, very comfortable. I was there for 6 years, to being a business owner. And that was very interesting and very fun and scary. But it's been 6 years now, and it's been such an amazing experience, such an amazing journey. The amount of people I've met, my coworkers, growing a team, all the mistakes, all the great things, working with different businesses. It's been fun.
Yeah, I think it is really scary to take that leap into starting your own business, but it can be so rewarding.
Yeah, I think, there's different ways in doing it, which I think is an amazing opportunity for bookkeepers nowadays, where you don't have to quit your full-time job to do this. You absolutely can start slow, build, a portfolio of a few clients, get comfortable with the software. For me, I had some great support around me, between my spouse, between my friends who are also business owners, who were really trying to, get me to that next level. And I think when you have a good support system around you who's wanting you to get to, to start your own business, it makes it so much easier. And I think I also came in at a good time where cloud software was really, working towards its peak 6 years ago, right? Really, really some awesome companies coming out and really doing some really exciting things. And, when I started my firm, I wasn't using any desktop solution. Like I knew that with my love for technology, I really wanted to go all in from day one using, cloud-based solutions.
Very cool. And what is your kind of approach to bookkeeping services?
Yeah, the way I describe our firm is I really try to throw personality into the equation when I'm talking to clients. I think bookkeeping is it's an industry where business owners are either into two different groups. They either need to they get it done because they need to get it done, but they don't really value it. And there's business owners who can appreciate the hard work that goes behind doing something that they don't want to do, but can also leverage that information for their benefit. And I think the way I try to do something that I think works for us is, I'm 34. I'm very energetic. I'm very goofy and outgoing, and I try to take my personality into the equation when I'm talking to clients. So I don't have two different Andrews. I don't have an Andrew at home and an Andrew with my clients. It's the same person, and I think clients can appreciate that because they are very stressed and very overwhelmed when it comes to finances. And if you can remove that barrier of making it hard for them to talk about it and making it part of their lives, I think it makes it a much easier time to build a strong relationship with that client. And that's something we've done. A lot of our clients really enjoy speaking with us. We try to make it as easy as possible in a very difficult industry. But I really try to, make it digestible, easy to consume, and just make it as simplified as possible. And I think clients can really appreciate that. So that's the direction we've gone with, is we really try to take a very complicated, hard set of tasks, and we really try to make it in more bite-sized, digestible sort of pieces for them to maybe appreciate finally for the first time, right?
Yeah, I think it can be really intimidating if you're a business owner who doesn't really have a financial background to look at all of these numbers and think, what does it actually mean? What's happening in my business? To be able to have a simple way to understand that, I think is really important.
Yeah. And, one of my favorite things when I was starting off, and still is today, is taking a company like Sift and be able to, I know it sounds like I'm plugging here, but it really is something I've always loved talking about this with clients, but reports can get very overwhelming. Just getting pages and pages of numbers, they're not going to know what to do with it. So when I'm talking to clients, I even say things like, you don't just get numbers, you get words, you get colors, you get graphs. And I know it sounds silly, but when you're able to take very complex information like financial health and margins and profitability and provide it in different ways for that client to consume, I think it's a game changer. I really think that, if you're just providing them with 4 or 5 pages of reports, your clients are not going to want to respond to that or even acknowledge it because it's so overwhelming and they don't want to feel quote unquote stupid. But when you're able to give them that information in different context and different opportunities in different ways, I think it's really amazing. And I think that's something that we really highlight with clients when we're talking to them in the early stages about we provide reports in different ways. And it's not just here's a 20-page number report, but here's more to go along with that. And they like it. They really appreciate that.
And I think it's also, as you were saying, that relationship that you build with clients, that you're going to be there to help them interpret what they're looking at and show them that it doesn't have to be so scary.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, right? So not only do we try to be a sounding board for them when those situations come up, but we really want to provide as best answers as we can for their questions regarding the business. The way I describe our industry is that we have all this power that we have to do right by. It's sort of like the Spider-Man Uncle Ben thing. It's great power comes great responsibility. It is true. We really peek behind the curtain with our clients, so to speak, where we get to see information for their business that maybe nobody in their lives know about, right? It could be just them and us. And we have this responsibility, I think, to try to provide, helpful information, guidance, recommendations. Obviously, it's, there's a fine line between, our word is not gospel, but, we do try to provide as much helpful guidance and answers to them to put them in the right direction. And I think, that responsibility on us as a bookkeeper to try to help them out, I think is really important in this day and age.
So why do you think small businesses should invest in outsourcing their bookkeeping services to a firm like yours?
Yeah, I think bookkeeping is hard. I think, it's an amazing opportunity for having different opportunities to do your bookkeeping with different software, different ways to do a thing. But I think to do it well is hard. I think a lot of people can do basic bookkeeping fairly easy enough with, a few hours of training in their specific business. But to do it well is very, very hard. It takes me, which I think I'm an amazing trainer and I built amazing videos internally to train my team. It takes them 3 months of full-time training, in my opinion, to do their job well. So it's and these are people who are educated in accounting, who are just thinking about bookkeeping and accounting. And if it takes them that long to be to be good at their job, how long is it going to take a business owner who's not primarily thinking about bookkeeping to do good bookkeeping? It takes a very, very long time. And I think, you want to surround yourself with people, to help you in those areas that you struggle in. And I think business owners, one of the first things when I started my business is I didn't want to be doing my own marketing. I didn't want to be trying to build a website. I didn't want to be doing my own IT, my own legal stuff. Those are areas that I knew that I didn't want to be partaking in. So I brought people on that can help me out. And those relationships are good. I think as a business owner, finding a good bookkeeper, finding a good accountant is, I think, as necessary as anything else when it comes to your business. And because you want to be able to ask somebody questions who knows your business on the finance side of things. And I think there's a lot of value for that, in my opinion. So yeah, for us, I just think it's so necessary. Yes, it's a fee. Yes, it's a cost of doing business, but it's as necessary as making sure you're getting Google ads running on a month-to-month basis. Those are things that, should be happening sort of naturally.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, interesting. I was reading a newsletter this morning that was saying how important it is to focus on your unique strengths. So often people focus on kind of their weaknesses in the workplace and, I must work on this because I'm not so good at that. But actually, you can outsource a lot of your weaknesses so that you can really focus at the things that you're good at and the things that you're passionate about. And I think this is a really good example of that. So business owners can focus on what their business is, what they're doing every day, and then still know that, all their finances are going smoothly.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it, right? Is leverage and lean into your strengths and take your, because you're right. I think the way to think about it too is how difficult and time consuming is it to try to grow your weaknesses, and will you even want to do those things? And why aren't you leveraging? If you're really good at sales and you're like, well, I'm really crappy at bookkeeping, I got to do bookkeeping. It's no, you don't. Like you said, you can absolutely outsource that. You can bring in people who can help support you, but then you could do more sales, which is more profitable for your business. And I think, it's bookkeeping is an industry that, there is a huge range of hourly rates and fees. But at the end of the day, you don't want to go, too cheap, because at the end of the day, it can hurt you as a bookkeeper to, be at the bottom side of things. But yeah, I love that, growing and leaning into your strengths as opposed to trying to focus on your weaknesses. Yeah, it makes sense.
And on the topic of pricing, what is your kind of approach to pricing? How do you feel about offering free advice as a bookkeeper? Do you think bookkeepers should charge for everything? What is your sort of approach?
Yeah, pricing is so interesting to me in the sense where I know there's a lot of programs and people and coaches out there. And, I was in QuickBooks Connect last month in Toronto, and I was actually on a panel on behalf of Intuit talking about pricing. And I think it's so easy as a bookkeeper to get overwhelmed by the thought and idea of pricing. The way I started my firm on pricing was so there's value pricing, there's fixed pricing, there's hourly pricing, there's so many different variables. The way I started, and I still do it today, which is I internalized a rate which I was happy with. So I wanted to do initially $50 an hour. And what I do is I quote a client and I try to anticipate how many hours a month I think that file will take based on their scope of work. And then I add a buffer, usually a 20%, 25% buffer for like administrative work or one-time work or things that sort of come out of sometimes nowhere. And that's roughly my monthly price. In the early stages, I made a lot of mistakes. And that's good though. Those mistakes allowed me to become a better bookkeeper, to get better at quoting. But what I try to do is I internalize a rate. So right now it's $100 an hour. I say I expect or want to do at least $100 per hour, bare minimum, from this client. And I anticipate based on their questionnaire. So I give them a questionnaire to fill out that I think it's going to take 8 hours a month or 10 hours per month. Now, it's really important that you track those hours as best as you can because you need to figure out if you're wrong very early on. You can't wait 6 months to figure out you're wrong. Usually the first 3 months is a pretty good indicator. And at that point, if you're wrong, you need to have a conversation with the client. And I've done that. I've been there, done that. It's uncomfortable at sometimes, but you just got to admit you quoted incorrectly. And hopefully you provided enough value and quality of work to that client that even with an extra 10 or 20% in your pricing, they'll still want to work with you because they know they can't work without you.
Yeah, I think those conversations are, like you said, very difficult to have, but they're very important because you don't want to then, sort of give the fee after you've done all the work and they say, oh, that's a lot more than we were expecting.
Yeah. And one thing I've really stuck to my guns with is if you quote a client and they try to ask you to bring that down, don't bring it down. It's just not going to be a client for you. So I think, you might be thinking, well, I'm so new. I need to I really want to get my first few clients. So yeah, I guess I'll, I quote $500 a month or $400 per month, but they're asking for $300. Fine. You bring it down. That's a slippery slope because at that point, now they have this weird competitive an edge over you, and that they're going to take advantage of, right? So they're going to ask you to do things that wasn't part of your scope of work. They're going to stretch that scope of work. And the next time you try to increase your pricing, that they're going to really haggle you and really stress you out about that process. So, it sucks to lose a potential client, but it's so much easier to try to avoid those types of clients in the first place if you can do that.
Yes, if you can put that boundary in place clearly from the beginning, I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is easier said than done. But being comfortable with being uncomfortable is something that I've had to learn. I remember being anxious just picking up a phone and talking to a prospective client. My heart would beat. I would get really dry mouth. I would start getting nervous and shaking. But over time, that got better. And as you have more conversations with clients on good stuff and bad stuff, it becomes easier. So if you can try to avoid those types of clients. Because I know you really want a client or a few clients when you're starting off. Trust me, those are the clients that you won't be working with in the future. That's a guarantee. And you're not going to really enjoy that process, that relationship at all, typically. You're going to be always looking at them being I don't want to work with them, but I feel like I have to. No, you do not have to work with them. You absolutely can make a decision either in the early set or later on in your career. You do not need to work with people.
Yeah, I think that's really tough for people that are starting out, but definitely there are more clients out there. There are clients that will be better suited to you and who won't be a pain to work with.
Yeah, it's because you feel I felt like a failure in the early few months where I wasn't able to get clients. But what I'll say is that if you are confident and you are enjoying your work, you will always get clients in this industry. There's so much work out there. There's so much work out there in this industry that you will later on, as you get comfortable and have more experience in your belt, have your own picking choice of which clients you want to work with. I don't niche. I know niching is a whole topic. I never niched because I came from a nonprofit world where I wanted to learn as much as I can for small business bookkeeping. So I wanted to work with as many industries as possible. E-commerce, construction, health, services, professional services, retail. And that was a really good choice for me. Not always a good choice for everyone, but I really wanted to learn as much as I can. So that way, when I was quoting future clients, I was more confident in my quoting process. I was more confident in helping them out with guidance and doing the work. Because the thing is, if you're only stuck with restaurants or travel agencies or retail, there's a lot of risk with that, right? There's a lot of risk with, economics, political situations, whether, those clients don't pay you fast enough, right? Some industries will pay you slower. So there are a lot of nuances about that. But for me, I worked with as many clients as I could. And still today, but now I'm more selective, right? I'm more selective now than ever because I know what works for us and what doesn't work for us.
And you mentioned there's plenty of work to go around. I know there's a bit of a pipeline problem. There's a shortage of accountants and bookkeepers, and kind of hiring new people and retaining your staff is quite a challenge for a lot of firms. So I wondered, what's your experience been like of that? How do you keep your staff happy? Do you kind of have any advice for people who are struggling with this?
Yeah, that's I was also on a panel in Toronto regarding culture. So like work culture and how to build a good work culture. That's something I'm very proud of. So I have a very, very amazing positive work culture at our firm. And I think what I've done, so I think in this, if you're wanting a certain type of personality and certain type of people, you need to treat them well. First and foremost, treat them well. And, how I treat them well is doing things and providing them with benefits that's important for them. So for instance, I give 2 hours a week of wellness, which is do what you want for what it makes you feel good. So we work out, some of us work out together as a team once a week. So I pay for a CrossFit membership. 6 of us go, we work out every Tuesday. That's been not only amazing memories, but it's really good for mental health and physical health. Some people use that hour for therapy. Some people use it for a nap, take a walk with their dogs, do yoga, whatever that is important for them, physically or mentally, spiritually, whatever, they get those 2 hours. We've done a retreat every single year. We've done 3 so far. And that's another opportunity where, I pay for their time. I bring a private chef. I get a nice cottage. Like I really invest for memories and experience for us to get closer to really, at the end of the day, this is a job for them. And I'm very transparent. I tell them, like, listen, I know this is a job, but I will make it at least as enjoyable for you as possible, to the point where you at least wake up and say, I don't mind working today. Like, I don't want people to be thinking, I hate my job and I hate doing this type of work. I will at least make this, not only beneficial for both parties, but somewhat enjoyable. And having a good culture makes it a bit easier to want to continue working for your employer. I'm very transparent with them. I'm transparent in regards to how I price clients, how I do revenue sharing, how I do bonuses, compensation. I don't hide anything internally. If I notice somebody working hard, I don't punish them by giving them more work. I just give them the option saying, listen, you've been really efficient, doing a really good job. Do you want more money? Do you want more money and take on a bit more responsibility? Or do you want to have still more money, but maybe not as much work as well, and you can benefit from your efficiency? Because the worst thing is you get really good at your job, you get more work thrown your way because you're getting better at your job. That sucks. It sucks. It's like it doesn't reward people to do good work. And some people really have ambition in regards to growth. And some people just really want to just work their 40 hours a week, and they don't want to continuously learn new responsibilities, and that's fine. And I'm really cool with that. Like at the end of the day, it's what's important for them individually, and they all have that choice. So the way I describe my firm is I really try to empower them individually for things that they enjoy doing. But I treat them like the way I would want to be treated if I was working for somebody else again. Like just a boss that you can chat with without feeling judged, with opportunities for growth, opportunities for bonuses and compensation, but also moments throughout the year to build memories, to at least strengthen our culture internally.
I think that's a really good approach. I think because it combines different elements. So you're considering things like compensation, and at the end of the day, this is a job, this isn't their whole life. But at the same time, you want this to be an environment where your staff are happy to be every day and when they're not dreading coming into work. And I think that transparency is so key. It's the same way you say you're not a different person at home to who you are with your clients. I think it's the same with your team. You are who you are, and what you say is what you mean, which I think is very helpful.
Yeah, and this job is hard, and I tell them that, and I'm very much aware that this job isn't like, you can just, do a task very easily, without thinking about, like, there's a lot of complexity behind our work. There's a lot of things to be aware of. And I'm very much aware of that with them. And at the end of the day, transparency is super important for me. The worst thing is, things are changing at the firm, and they're not I don't give them to be, I don't provide them with awareness. I am always proactive. When I'm thinking about doing something in the firm, I have a team meeting. Like, I get everyone's thoughts about, if they're not enjoying working with a client, I want them to tell me that they're not enjoying it and to give me reasons why, because maybe they're not a good fit for us, right? So I really want to provide a healthy environment, because 40 hours a week of their time is a lot of time they're dedicating to the firm. Like, that's a lot of time, right? Like, it's probably more time per week than they're doing for social stuff, right? So it's a long time. It's a lot of time per week, every single week, So I try to make it as enjoyable as I can for a industry of bookkeeping that can sometimes be a bit dull. To be fair, it can be pretty dull sometimes, but I make it, as flexible and as comfortable for them as possible.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I think at SIFT we have a similar approach in terms of culture, and our office is a really fun place to be. So and it makes a big difference. Some really
fun, cool stuff. Yeah, I love your videos, and it's like it seems to be in an environment that there's a lot of people like yourself who's been there for years now. So it's like that says something, right? Like when a SaaS company, when a tech company has not only retained staff, but not only able to also produce really good software and upgrades and quality of life features, that says a lot about a culture, I think, internally as well. So yeah, kudos to you guys. And at the end of the day, I think culture is underrated. I think, you're often thinking about, making sure your business is more profitable and generating revenue. And that stuff will happen, I think, naturally as you're building the proper people and the proper culture. I think when people are more engaged in their work a little bit more, there's a bit more accountability, a bit more ownership, and I think it's a win-win for everyone. So,
yeah, for sure. I was wondering, as a sort of final question, what would you say is the most surprising thing that you've learned while running your firm?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, listen, I'm 6 years into this, and I still struggle in certain areas. I think being a business owner with staff is not for everyone, I think is what I'll say. I had aspirations to grow a business, but not to this degree and this fast. Like, I was like, maybe I'll hire 3 employees after 5 years. Right now we're at 8 people, and it's like, and there's opportunities for me to grow more, but I really put a pause on that because it is difficult. It's difficult to, it can be very rewarding, but it can be sometimes difficult to manage people, hiring or firing or performance reviews, and making sure you're both a colleague and a boss, and like you're kind, but also like sometimes fair. It's hard. It is really, really hard for me. But I have such an amazing team that they make this process definitely a lot easier. But I would say if you're thinking about being a bookkeeper, or you are a bookkeeper and you're thinking about growing a firm, there will absolutely be a lot of different tasks and responsibilities that you as a business owners will be thinking about that you never thought about before. So just be aware of that and be comfortable with delegation. I think in the first, I think, 2 years, I was so uncomfortable with delegating work to my team. That hindered them, right? It hindered their growth, because if I wasn't showing, sort of trust in delegating work to them, then they're aware of that, right? They are very much seeing that. So, don't be afraid to delegate work to your team, and, do not feel ashamed to ask for help in regards to coaching. Like, I've never done coaching, but, getting coaching to help with managing a team, because it is a whole different skill set than just doing bookkeeping and doing taxes and doing accounting. Like, it's a whole different skill set.
Yeah, definitely. I think just because you're good at bookkeeping or whatever your special skill is, doesn't mean you're going to be good at being a manager.
You're right. They are completely two different things. And, like I said, thankfully, I was able to grow my firm with people that I trust, people that I was comfortable around, and just being very transparent. Like, I was very transparent with them from day one, saying, like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So, like, if I'm doing something that you think is just, like, not good for you or uncomfortable with, just tell me. Like, please tell me, because at the end of the day, I want you to enjoy this job as much as possible, and I will make mistakes, right? And I want to be I want to be accountable to my mistakes the same way that you're going to be accountable to your work. So please vocalize to me as a business owner, as your boss, if I'm doing anything that's good or doing anything that's bad, because I really want to know. I don't want to create, disdain, internally for you. I really want you to be very much, open in communication and dialogue with me. So that's one thing I'm very, very transparent with my team, is talk to me. Like, if you have an idea to do something different at the firm, please talk to me and let me know, because I love hearing ideas and suggestions.
Yeah, I think what I am really taking away from today's podcast is the importance of transparency, whether that be within your team or with clients. Just having that clear communication, that honesty. This is what you can expect. This is me. I'm just starting out as a manager. I'm still learning the ropes as well. Let me know how you find it, what you think should change. And I think that that's really valuable. And I'm sure that's why your team is so happy to be working with you.
Yeah, I'm super grateful. I have, like, I'm so spoiled with my team. I tell them that all the time. But I also just don't say it. Like, I pay them, right? At the end of the day, as we talked about, I do pay them for that value that they're providing to the firm. So there's one thing in just saying, where it's like, you're doing such an amazing job, I'm so grateful for you. But if you're not really also, like, going the next step of actually providing them with the proper compensation for that value, then it's going to feel shitty for them, right? So, at the end of the day, the cost to hire someone new from scratch to train them is going to be way more than just, like, paying somebody a bit more money at the end of the day for the value that they're providing. So be aware, as a business owner, you definitely do not want to have long periods of time of compensation to conversations. You definitely want to be proactive. So, like, I'm always looking at the current market trends and rates to what accountants and bookkeepers get paid. And I'm always like, I'm going to pay at least 10% more than that, bare minimum, because I don't want to have, I want them to be so comfortable and happy that they don't even need to have conversations with me about compensation, because I'm already going above and beyond for them. Because at the end of the day, that 10% is a drop in the bucket for me to hire somebody brand new to replace somebody, because I didn't want to pay them an extra $2,000 or $3,000 per year. So, for me, being proactive in that sense makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it does make a lot of sense. And it's really putting your money where your mouth is. You don't want to have these empty compliments. Oh, you're doing an amazing job. This is a concrete way that you can show someone that you really do value them.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Well, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew, and thank you to everyone who's joined us live. It's been a really interesting conversation, and I've learned a lot.
Yeah, this has been great. I'm always happy to come back more, talk about whatever you guys want. It's always been, it's always fun. I love it gives me opportunities to sort of, remember those moments over the last 5 or 6 years and sort of, walk back in that, memory lane. Because I've learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. I've done some things very well. But again, some things pretty poorly that I've had to sort of grow from and reconfigure. Because that's the thing about this is a journey, right? Like you will absolutely make mistakes. You will absolutely have to pivot and try to figure out what works well for you and your firm. But don't treat that as a failure. Like treat that as an opportunity to define yourself a bit further. And that's important. I think, if you just look at all your losses, that's not good. Look at your wins, figure out what works well, pivot, reconfigure yourself. Because that's the fun part. I love the theoreticals and like the what ifs and like, okay, well, what if you did this instead? I love those kind of conversations and bring your team in those conversations too, because your team will have some amazing ideas and suggestions because they're in it too. They're in it as much as you are, and loop them in those conversations. And that's what we did at the retreat, right? We had some really fun and really positive conversations that every year slightly restructures our firm a bit, and it's good. So yeah, thank you for having me. Always happy to be back and talk about whatever.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrew. And yeah, I think as a takeaway, don't see your failures, your challenges as failures, but as opportunities. And yeah, you can only grow from there. I'll thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast.
Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now.
And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast.
That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.